Good afternoon and welcome to the Glenorchy City Council meeting on this Monday, 30th of June 2025. How this year has flown. I'm Sue Hickey, Mayor of Glenorchy and Chairperson of this afternoon's meeting. Glenorchy City Council acknowledges the Muwinina people as traditional owners of this land. We recognise the Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the original owners and continuing custodians of the land, sky and country and waters of this island of Trawita. We pay our respect to Aboriginal elders past and present. We commit to working in a way that welcomes and respects all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders and Torres Strait Islander people. Joining me here in Council is Tony McMullen, our CEO, Alderman Stephen King, Alderman Stuart Slade, Alderman Josh Cockshut, Alderman Shane Alderton, Alderman Tim Marks, Alderman Peter Riddler, Alderman Justin Stringer, Councillor Molly Kendall, and our Deputy Mayor, Alderman Russell Yaxley. Before we open our agenda, I take this opportunity to make a statement about workplace health and safety. Glenorchy City Council takes workplace health and safety seriously, and this includes physical and psychological safety. We have a duty to ensure that a safe workplace is provided for our employees, elected members, contractors, volunteers and members of the public who may be present at Council's workplaces. Council meetings form part of the Council's workplace and it is expected that everyone who attends Council meetings will behave in a polite and respectful manner. Council has endorsed a statement of intent setting out how we as elected members have agreed to conduct ourselves in representing the people of Glenorchy. In accordance with this, any disagreement should be expressed respectfully, remembering both during debate and in decision making that we are elected to represent and serve the people of Glenorchy and to make our city the best it can be. Finally, I note that the open section of this meeting is being live streamed and an audio-visual recording of the meeting will occur in accordance with the Council's recording of Council meetings policy. Members of the public are not permitted to make audio-visual recordings of the Council meetings. We have 16 items on our agenda this afternoon and agenda item 1 is apologies. So we have no apologies. So we'll move on to item 2, which is confirmation of the minutes. So we have 2 sets of minutes, one being the Council meeting held on the 26th of May 2025. So we might move that one first.
Oh.
Thank you. So I saw Alderman Marks first and seconded by Alderman Riddler. Alderman Marks, do you wish to make any contribution there? Anyone else? Any discussion? I put that motion. All those in favour say aye. It's carried unanimously. Now we'll approve the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 23rd of June 2025. Thank you, Alderman Riddler, and thank you, Alderman Alderton. Any discussion, Alderman Riddler?
No, happy.
Okay, any further discussion around the table? No. I put that motion. All those in favour, and it's carried unanimously. Announcements by the Chair. So I have a few tonight, and I'd like to start with the pool, the repair and reopening of. Now that the contract to repair the pool has been finally signed, Hutchison's builders will commence works in early to mid-August and are due to be finished by mid-2026. Information on the scope of work can be found on our website. We will provide regular updates on the repair works as they happen, so keep an eye out on our Facebook page and website. Now, regarding the redevelopment, advocacy for funding of the redevelopment of the new aquatic centre continues. We have a plan to reach out to past and present Tasmanian elite swimmers and ask for their endorsement for funding of the new pool. We continue to work to keep the pool at top of mind for politicians and candidates in future state and federal elections. Election funding. So last week, a funding letter signed by all elected members was sent to Clark. I think that's a funding request. So last week, a funding request letter was signed by all members and sent to Clark candidates in the upcoming election to highlight the Council's priority projects, which include the pool redevelopment, Tolosa Park Stage B, Humphreys Rivulet Path and a youth hub. The letter specifically included a breakdown of both the Tolosa Park and Youth Hub priority projects to provide the state government with phased options for funding. These projects include a multicultural playground, pump track and a boardwalk at Tolosa Park, and the development of dedicated youth engagement space on the front lawns of the chambers. Youth engagement. Council is continuing to work on making a youth hub happen, and I'm confident we will deliver on this important project. Aside from the recent commitments of $500,000 from the state government to run youth programs, we have recently received an invitation from the Tasmanian Community Fund to submit a grant application for funding to operate a youth hub. However, a youth hub is only part of the solution to engaging our young people in Glenorchy. Only last week, we all went to the opening of the new Windermere skate park and pump track, which provides young people with another place to gather and to be active. This centrally located facility is easy for young people to get to and is next to an existing recreation area that features a playground, barbecue facilities, picnic tables, bench seats and toilets for families and facilities for them to watch their children to play. The Windermere facility will take pressure off the very popular Montrose skate park and also complements the multi-use games arena situated at Gibbons Reserve, both of which are very popular and well used. And hopefully it will be great at distracting kids through the school holidays. We have also developed a full program of events to keep young people occupied during the coming school holidays. This includes daily basketball competitions, games and snacks on the front lawn of the chambers, and a full program of creative workshops and live events at the Moona Arts Centre, details of which can be found on their website. Task Force Respect update. Tas Police report that Task Force Respect is averaging about 7 hours of high visibility foot patrol each day when rostered on. Police are getting great feedback from pedestrians and shopkeepers in relation to seeing officers on the beat and are not seeing so many troublesome people in and around the CBD. In addition, security has seen a reduction in these incidences, and it's been fabulous. We're very happy to have this service in the city. Black spot funding. Tomorrow I will join Carol Brown at Sunmont Street in Derwent Park to announce a $50,000 funding for anti-skid surfacing. This is part of the $185,000 black spot funding from the Australian Government, to which Council is contributing $15,000. As part of an ongoing effort to deter inappropriate driver behaviour such as burnouts in Sunmont Street, in early next year we will install a new surface treatment that may be better suited to the area, particularly in the cul-de-sac where most of the burnouts occur. The new anti-hooning surface, made from calcite bauxite and laid in strips, works by shredding tyres during burnouts. That's a pretty good incentive not to do them. A similar treatment was successfully installed at Moreton Bay Council in Queensland, where it significantly reduced hooning in an industrial area. As far as we are aware, we will be the first council in Tasmania to install this new road treatment. Now, finally, a farewell to our CEO. After 28 years of dedicated service, today marks our outgoing CEO, Tony McMullen's last day with the Council and final Council meeting. Tony has had a long and successful career at the GCC and has made an enormous impact on and contribution to Council and the broader Glenorchy community. Tony's legacy will be the positive state in which he leaves the Council, almost debt-free, and a positive workplace culture as evidenced by a Change Champion Award and Council being named as Employee of Choice in 2024. Tony will be remembered for not only his deep understanding of local government, his thoughtful and collaborative leadership style, and his unwavering dedication to serving the people of Glenorchy, but for being a strong leader for whom kindness is at the core of everything he does. With Tony's departure, we welcome Emilio Reale as the new CEO. The appointment of Emilio, from a strong field of 68 applicants, not only allows for the continuation of work to reinforce Council's positive culture, but also provide for a seamless transition in policy and program implementation. Emilio has over 25 years' experience in local government, has a strong knowledge of local issues, a passion for the Glenorchy community and an outstanding commitment to service delivery. Emilio was born and raised in Glenorchy and over a number of years has worked for the council for a total of 18 years, most recently as Deputy CEO. Now, I wish Tony well, as I'm sure we all do, as he transitions to the next phase of his life, and am looking forward to working with Emilio to build on Tony's work to take Glenorchy forward. I would now like to hand over to Tony so he can say a few parting words.
Thank you, Matt. I'll try and read my scroll notes here. It's been a privilege to serve the Glenorchy community over 28 of the last 31 years in a variety of roles. I started here as a young planning officer, moved through a variety of roles and have spent the last 8 years as either acting GM or CEO. It's not always been an easy place to work, but I've never had any doubt about the commitment of our staff and elected members to make Glenorchy a better place every day. Glenorchy is a progressive, positive and diverse community, and it's got a really bright future. I'm leaving council in a really good position. There's a united elected member and staff team, and as the Mayor mentioned before, the council's finances are in a good position and we're really kicking some goals. So I really would like to warmly welcome the incoming CEO, Emilio Reali, and I'm sure he will do a fantastic job in his role and make the job his own. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's been an absolute honour to be able to serve alongside you. And I think I'm going to open the floor to various members of the elected members to say a few words. Who would like to start? Alderman Clay? It's always good for a few words.
Oh, I've got enough to say.
On Tony?
Oh, not at this stage.
All right, Alderman Alderton?
Okay, I'll start. All right, firstly, from the time I was elected to council and first met with the Mayor on that occasion, which was Peg Thomas and Tony McMullen, I can thank Tony for all the support he's given me as an elected member from day one. The first day I rocked up here and was sworn in, it was a warm, welcoming place, but Tony gave me a lot of worldly advice, made me feel right at home. So I have the utmost respect for this man. He's done a fantastic job as our General Manager, then CEO, and I wish him all the best for whatever future endeavours he plans to undertake.
Thank you. Deputy?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely agree with it. Has been said, and agree. My first term was something that was, a little bit daunting, not, a new environment, but you made it feel very welcoming and made us feel part of the team moving forward. And I guess looking back over the past time, I've seen such a good record of good results, and not necessarily all at once, and it wasn't, but it was a continuation of good decision after good decision after good decision. So on behalf of the council and the community, thanks so much for everything you've done.
Anyone else like to contribute? Thank you, Josh.
Hello. Like all my colleagues have said, thank you, Tony, for your service for the council over a very long period of time. 28 years is a long time. I think I wasn't even born when you were on the council, so there we go. It was my first joke when I started on the council, so I'll finish on that one. But in my time on council, Tony, you've always been a pleasure to deal with. You're open, transparent, honest, high levels of integrity. I think the change the council's seen over the last term especially, I think that can be contributed to your leadership, keeping the team steered the same ship, and obviously we've gone from strength to strength, so you'll be missed by everyone in the organisation, but wish you and your family all the best in the future, and no doubt you won't be a stranger, so thanks, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, thanks. What a huge moment and what a huge career to have 28 years in the same institution. And I'm just reflecting on my first meeting here and how incredibly anxious I was sitting at the table with my, sympathetic nervous system kicks in and having that sort of sense of formality that surrounds it all, and imagining that you would have been in that position, back in the day that you first came on board as general manager, and yeah, just to see you having sailed through so smoothly, I can't imagine how much that bumpy road has kind of spilled into your outside life, and it's been, moments of real difficulty within those 28 years. I just can't even imagine the situations that you've faced and you've sailed through. So huge thanks for your presence. If I could think of words that sum you up, it's probably loyalty, consistency, and really respect. You hear all the time how much you're respected within the local government sector. So you brought loads, not only to this council, but to the wider local government movement in Tasmania. So thanks for your service.
Alderman Marks.
Yes, I'd just like to say thanks to Tony. When I was a member of the public coming in and complaining about things, Tony listened to me so much, gave me advice on so many items that I was helping the public with, and since I've been on council, it's just been so great and so easy to be able to move into this role, and I have the utmost respect for Tony and hope to see him around in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman
Thanks very
Sloan.
much. Yeah, look, I'd just like to say, Mayor, hello to members and obviously our staff and members of the public. I've probably known Tony the longest, since 1991. I've come across Tony for 5 years when I went out and came back in, and he hasn't really changed that much. He's had some interesting roles, and right from he's always been a stickler and always at the forefront there, Tony, at planning and statutory planning legislation. That's one of your strongest points. And then we had a bit of branch off to economic development, and then a few other things, then quite obviously getting into a management role. I think the key things that people underestimate about you, the fact is that you go for a lot of exercise books taking notes, but is what you reflect to the other people in local government. That really amazes me when I go around and whatever people say, what do you think of that general manager or that fella down there at Kingborough, Clarence, whatever, and people don't know that person, or I make a funny comment. You don't hear that at all in relation to Tony McMullen. You always get to say that Tony is a real stalwart for good governance and local government, and you know that I've got a strong feeling for government as well. So you should take that on board, Tony, not just from us, but from other people as well. That's how they see you, and that's very important. You can't make that up, and you carry that with you. So I think that's something magnificent. I'm one of the very few people who've travelled, actually, Tony, on a trip. We went on a world trip, the world cycle trip, in the first one in the Southern Hemisphere in 1996 to Fremantle. And I just hope sometime that he finds his swimming pants, what do you call them, bathers. He lost his trunks. But it was a great time to go away with a planner and see the world in relation to cycling. But that was another thing he had commitment to, was cycling, and over talking at a conference like that, always representing the council. So it all comes back again to representing yourself. Look at the way you dress and things like that. All very, very important. And I just want to say thank you for being that ambassador, chief senior ambassador for this council during that period, and hope that your next steps, wherever they be, are successful. Don't forget the ones you've built where you've come from, and that your future holds great things for you and your family.
Thank you. Like to say something on Ricky?
I reckon so.
We always depend on you for that.
Thank you. Guess I've been here a while with you, Tony. We've been through the good, the bad, and the good again. And as I've said on numerous occasions of recent times, we're in the best place we've been in since I've been on council. So you've got to take some credit for that. You're allowed to take some credit for that. It's fine to be humble, but at the same time, I've always spoken about your integrity and your desire to improve this place. Even if we ever disagreed, we're always able to disagree amicably. I appreciate that about you. again, like everyone else, I wish you all the best, you and your family. You're a great family man, you deserve to have a good life after this, whatever that life is. You're only a young man still, aren't you?
You flatter me.
I'm comparing you to, you know, so all the best. As I think others said, don't be a stranger, this is still your home in many ways. You know, if Emilio isn't doing what he should, feel free to come along and bump him. But, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Spiro, do you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you again for the rest of them. I'll echo what the rest have said about the settlements being here, the professionalism of yourself and making us feel welcome, especially us newer aldermen and councillors that might just come in. You've helped us navigate, made us feel very welcomed and comfortable in our positions, and I can see how why the council is one of those better favourable, councils amongst all the other councils as the employee of the Choice Award from last year. And I can see how that came about with your professionalism and the team that you've run, that's actually trickled down through the management as well. So I'd like to thank you, and with that 28 years of building up such a big reputation within the company, we'd like to continue that hard work to make sure that those goals are continuing to get ticked off for you, for your peace of mind when you're actually off there doing other things in life, and you can look back and see that the council was actually on a great track, which we know it will go on a great track because of the hard work that you put in the previous years. And I'm sure our new CEO, incoming CEO, Media, would actually continue that legacy for you. So thank you, Tony.
Alderman Ridley, would you like to say anything? Okay. Well, I'd like to sum up what all of the other elected officials have said, Tony. The words such as loyalty, consistency, respect. I think if I had to have one word, it's integrity. As a person passionate about governance, just like Alderman Slade, you are a stickler for doing the right thing at all times. And also the other thing I've witnessed is your devout loyalty to your staff and the way you always put them first and you consider them in pretty well everything that you do. So I really admire that strength in you. It was also a pleasure to get to know that sense of quirky humour that you have and your ability or otherwise to sing. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun and we all wish you the best of times. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I think Alderman King's right, you have definitely left the council in a very good position. So now we're on to item 4, pecuniary interest notification. Does anyone have one? Thank you, Alderman Marks.
Yes, I have pecuniary interest in item 15 in closed council.
Thank you. Item 5 is response to previous public questions taken on notice. They are in the agenda. 2 from Manfred Gutman of West Moona regarding COVID, and I think there's 3 actually, yes, and that's it. And now we're opening for public question time, and I'll just remind the audience that this is an ordinary meeting of council for the primary purpose of elected members debating and deciding on council business. In accordance with the local government meeting procedures regulations, council will allocate 15 minutes if needed during each council meeting to invite members of the public to ask questions relating to the activities of council. Council school policy is stated in the agenda, and I would like to bring your attention to the following rules. Members of the public are to announce their name and residential address before asking a question, which will be recorded in the minutes. Questions to be put succinctly and in form of a question, not a comment. Questions must not be inflammatory, abusive, defamatory, contain personal attack or otherwise breach any rules of the meeting which have been explained by the chairperson. Chairperson may limit the number of questions, and I don't think we need to worry about that. And as chairperson, I have a responsibility to maintain a safe environment for elected members and council staff. Okay, so do we have any questions tonight? Thank you, Ms. Crew.
I'd also like to add my farewell to Tony, because I have this abiding memory now of Stuart and Tony in lycra shorts. I don't know how I'm going to raise that.
Very good imagination,
Right. My first question concerns rates, and And I'm wondering, would council be open to considering a poll of ratepayers to take a poll regarding adopting the Brighton City Council model? We all use the same facilities and we ought to pay standard rates.
Okay.
Is that something the council would look at?
I believe council has looked at it, but I will just ask the CEO to respond. Should we take it on notice?
Through you, Mayor, I could perhaps make some brief comments. My understanding, and it's not a detailed understanding of the Brighton model, but my understanding is that whether you are living on acreage, let's say at Pontville or somewhere like that, or you're living in a more modest house in Bridgewater, you will pay the same rates. So what effectively that means is that effectively the person that's has the larger property is being cross-subsidised by the person with a more modest property. So from an equity perspective, it doesn't kind of cut the mustard. It's certainly a system that's popular with people that have got larger land holdings in Brighton, but it's probably a model that doesn't it may lead to some revenue challenges for the council.
Right. Well, but sorry, I'm not going to go into a huge discussion, but my understanding is that rates are used for go towards facilities that are provided. So the value of my property ought not to determine what I pay in rates because I use the same facilities.
Through you, Mayor, the basis of our
infrastructure.
The basis of our tax system is really a progressive tax system that people who have more pay more, contribute more to the community. That's the basis of our income tax system. It's also the basis of our rating system for 28 of the 29 municipalities in Tasmania.
I do that in stamp duty, but we can have a further discussion about this. My other concern is the international press getting involved in Glenorchy City Council, in the Glenorchy region with regard to youth violence. And I really take umbrage at this because I think that it's been instigated by politicians in that we have an election coming up and they want to grab the headlines. Is it possible to protect us as property owners here? The whole image affects the value of our property. It also affects businesses in the area, and this is a concern that was brought to me by a number of businesses who are just so upset. Would it be asking too much of council to actually write to these people, because it does affect the people of Glenorchy, it affects the council's image as well? I think that if I'm asking council to write a very, very strict letter. It's okay to go out and, talk to the public, but to bring a whole council and a whole area down in such an unfair manner is gross negligence.
Yes, well, I'm not certain it was political, but it's not a well-respected newspaper, and it was predatory, to put it even mildly, to be out there trying to photograph children who were or youth, I should say, who were quite upset because they didn't want their grandparents seeing photos of them and thinking that they're bad kids when they're not. The most unfortunate incident is one of these things like you draw more attention to it or you put a line under it and hope it doesn't happen again. But it was unfortunate. It is a dreadful publication that just created like stalking around the toilets and different areas of the city, trying to get a bad image, and then conflating what actually happened with youth crime, dreadful. So yes, anyway, I'll take on board what you've said.
Right.
Probably discuss it offline.
Well, back home, we don't call it the Daily Mail, we call it the Daily Fail.
Yes, thank you. I think that's a good way of picking it up.
And just one more question, if you don't mind. A lot of people have approached me with regard to the rodent infestation in the Glenorchy area, but I dare say that it's around the areas, but we have lots of waterways here and that sort of thing. Would council look to addressing that problem? Because I parked in front of my unit and I saw this mouse that almost scurried over my boot just as I was getting out of my ute. I promise you, I screeched so loudly like a banshee that my neighbours came out thinking that I was being attacked, but it was a real mouse right in front of me.
A real mouse? Oh.
A real mouse.
Okay, I think we'll just ask about that because there are policies about rodent infestations. To the Deputy CEO.
Mayor, through you, we actually do have some rodent control measures around council properties, particularly buildings. And if we know of infestations in certain reserves, we will treat those. But we obviously do it in a targeted way because treating the whole city is quite difficult. But if we know that there's a infestation on public land,
Right, right.
but it's usually the property owner's responsibility to treat vermin on their properties if it's localised to their property.
Right. Well, that's one way of getting rid of this menace that comes in to ask questions. Just don't treat them in my area.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Right, and there are also, sorry, what if Eddie would like to, sorry. Eddie, do you have a question tonight?
No, I'm good tonight. Thank you.
My goodness, this is a first. We do have a question on notice from Janice Bryan at Montrose. Could the council renovate the building at 316 Main Road, Glenorchy to enable community use? And the answer is no, it is a building that's no longer fit for use and it would not be viable to upgrade or renovate. A question with notice from Chris Leamy, and that one is just about the contract negotiations of the pool, and that's been answered, and as we know, the contract is now signed. There's also a question on notice from Angela Stirk from Rosetta, who talked about the public toilets being all gender at the Moona Arts Centre, and that's been answered in full within our agenda as well. CEO, do we have any petitions addressing council meeting or deputation? No. Okay, activities of the mayor.
Mayor, just a slight amendment to the motion, or the recommendation for this item.
This one?
Yeah.
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 I was going to just make one too, if that's okay, because if I can go first. On Friday the 20th of June, it says I participated with the Hobart Cycling Group. Unfortunately, that had to be rescheduled at the last minute and will take place this week.
That's right, yeah. So I'm noted in there as being acting mayor for those times, and I wasn't as an acting mayor, I was just as a delegation on those roles. So on the May 28th as a Community and Volunteer Awards, I wasn't formally requested in writing. And then also for the council workshop on June 10th, there was just a delegation from yourself. So I don't know if I should be there as an acting mayor for those times. Just want to correct that record. That
yeah, I think I thought you were acting mayor for those occasions, but it's up to you, whatever you prefer.
Oh, well, I wasn't asked officially through the right, it wasn't written. It wasn't written, so I just wanted to.
You had a signed letter.
Yeah, I didn't have any of those, so.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I guess, so what my thing would be, it was obviously to correct the record, but then to, and deputy mayor, perhaps, just to make things simple.
Yeah, that's okay. My apologies, I think you'll know that I
I just.
sick suddenly,
Yeah.
writing a letter probably wasn't high on my agenda. Sorry, Alderson.
Thank you. I have a question, Mayor. So, in regards to what is the cut-off time for this item, because it doesn't mention anything about your really fantastic interview with Kylie Baxter on drive time. Did that fall in this time frame where you,
No, I think
where you spoke about the issues that were happening in Glenorchy?
Yes. We do have to have a mover and a seconder. Can you just hold that
Yes.
thought? Thank you. You want to move it? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Alderman Marks. Do you want any discussion on this?
Oh, I need to say, yeah, I totally agree with everything. I can understand what happened, how it happened, but I think it's important that you do get those governance things right, and I support the amendment on that basis.
Yes, we'll certainly try and do better.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, could everyone, we're going to move that motion. All those in favour, raise your hands. Carried
Have
unanimously.
we discussed it enough?
No, we're going back now to discuss it. So is that all right? It's carried unanimously. And now we're moving to Alderman Alderton to make comment.
Yes, so my question is regards to your interview with Kylie Baxter on drive time. Does that fall into the time frame of this? Because it's not mentioned in here, and I think there's some value in you talking about that. And
I think it'll be...
in light of what Ms Cruz raised, I think it's valuable to sort of let the community know that we as a council are on top of these situations, and that your piece, your interview with Kylie Baxter, with you and Kylie Baxter on drive time, sort of sums up the effort and what we're doing in that space, and how you spoke about that.
Okay, thank you very much, but I think it's in next month's agenda.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
it just
right.
pops over.
Right.
Yeah. The cut-off times, are they actually stated in there? It's 19th of May to the 22nd of June, probably. Anyone else have any comments or questions about activities? No? Do we need to move an amendment to your question?
Is that what we just did with Ordnance Lane?
Do you think that was assumed?
Yeah, I think, we just needed to move and second it to debate and then...
Yeah.
And then put it to the vote.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
Okay. Thank you. So in that case, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you for that. And then, item 9 is potential funding the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor Urban Renewal Project, Phase 1. And I need someone to move this. Thank you, Deputy. A second to thank you, Alderman King. Deputy, would you like to talk to it?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Yeah, the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor, this is a renewal approach for the transformation for transport, and in turn it will then obviously affect the small and medium residential housing, which I feel that is the single most important opportunity project for housing and population growth for our council. While there's obviously been years and years, and Tony's been part of many reports and examination of this space and this corridor, I believe this is an excellent progress in focusing on the corridor from the Glenorchy space to Newtown, where 75% is involved in our area. It's going to examine the economic heritage and environmental characteristics of the 4-kilometre section. It's going to identify land use and the capacity of it. It's going to discuss with stakeholders. They're going to look at planning controls and review, obviously, deterrents and incentives for development, which is really important to consider that for people wanting to make use of that land. So for mine, is that the enormity of the transformation of the entire corridor seem to have been put into the too hard basket to do the whole lot in one go, in terms of process, but also in terms of funds. And this stage approach, I believe, enables progress and enables the project to be completed in a staged manner, which I'm really pleased to see. The process will obviously find many issues, and it will raise some concerns, but it will also highlight and display the potential of what could be used and what could be done in this transformation. So again, it's the single most important opportunity for our city in terms of transport, housing and population growth. And I think we need to look at every opportunity, and so seeing this report and seeing it progress, I wholeheartedly support.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you, Alderman Riddler.
Yeah, I wasn't not opposed to it. I just got to raise a question in relation to, does this include parts of Main Road, particularly along from Creek Road to, say, Glenorchy, where the main road is so close to the corridor itself? Will it include the main road, both sides of Main Road?
really, so the approach that's proposed with this study is that we take so that the state government is moving ahead with a strategic business case for bus rapid transit along the rail corridor. And this, we're obviously looking at the section between Glenorchy and Newtown. The way that this will work is to look at explore the potential for greater densification of land use in a walkable distance of each of the so-called stations, the bus rapid transit stops along the corridor. So it picks up a significant chunk, and as you say, walkable distance is either a 400 or 800 metre walk from a public transit stop. Given that the rail line is for most of that part of the corridor within that kind of distance of main road, you kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, okay, so the point is that it will cover both sides of main road.
Correct.
And it could go to whatever boundary we decide, 200, 400 metres. And of course, on the southern side, we've got, particularly like along Gatehouse Street, Station Street, we've got some railway-owned land still that's just mowed by them. I think back to those roads, there's a strip of about 50 metres wide. So, and probably we'll be looking at some of those houses back as far as the National Fitness Centre, for example, that would be eventually be demolished or created to intensive living, a multi-unit development like we've got on Hopkins Street site on the other side at the moment.
Through you, Mayor. So the approach that we've taken is to look at the areas of land that we know are relatively unconstrained. So we're looking at, on that side of the corridor, there are significant parts of East Moona that have got either light industrial zoning or have possible heritage controls from, there are heritage precincts that have been identified through that particular part of the city. So we're focusing on the areas that have got less constrained in terms of heritage and other values. So there's already, as the report says, there's already 105 hectares of land which has got residential zoning possibility. Well, it's already zoned to allow residential development along the corridor. We want to look at what are the impediments to making more of that happen. We've also identified another 51 hectares of land on various sites, and we want to look at whether there's the potential to add more density in those areas as well. Some of those might be no-go, but we want to explore the potential for more.
Okay, second question, Mayor. In relation to that, will we consider raising the height level for multi-level strata titles, for example, similar to the strata social housing we've got in Hopkins Street, which is 3 floors. So not that moment by council discretion, at the moment we're limited to basically to 2 floors. So to increase the maximum, or to increase the rates per rateable area, I'd like to see that up because it stops the urban spread too. Even though we might have a lot of land out towards Grant, we've already got the infrastructure for Glenorchy and Moona, and it'd be good to be able to use that because we really don't need any extra infrastructure. So would that be taken into account as far as the height density goes?
Through you, Mayor. So we've looked at, there are a range of height limits that apply through that land that is already zoned for residential, to allow residential. So we've got a number of different areas. So just to go through very quickly, the inner residential zone is probably the one that, from memory, is only around about a 9 metre height limit.
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
30 feet, yeah.
Off the top of my head. But we've also got other areas like the Moona and Glenorchy CBD areas, and the commercial zone that's between those two centres, and they now have thanks to the work of our strategic planners, they have a specific area plan over them that allows for a greater height limit in those areas. So we want to look at the whole lot and see what the potential is.
Okay,
So
is that discretionary high density or actual fixed in the plan?
Well, it's certainly it's in the current planning scheme.
Right.
But in terms of, I'd have to look at
Well,
we want to look at whether, we want to basically look at those provisions and see what will work, what's going to be most effective in getting more people living closer to services in our city.
which I appreciate,
Yeah.
General Manager, but I don't want to see a situation like the village in Amiens Street, which is 3 levels, social housing in Hopkins Street, and then next door is restricted to 9 metres.
Mm.
So we need to make sure if we want to maximise the density there,
Mm.
the use of the existing infrastructure, we need to have a plan that, an overlay that says, right, it's 3 floors max, etc., subject to any change in, by council discretion if they apply. That's all. That's all.
Through me, so Amiens Avenue is one of those streets that has actually been identified for potential as a heritage area because it's the World War I returned soldiers housing in that street. So that's probably, I understand the point that you're making though, that we should be looking to get
Well,
that.
it's like the Federation Houses in Hamel Street, in Moona, Pearce Street with, what's it, Dorset House, whatever it is, Benchfield's house, Virginsville Park. Obviously they're protected, but appreciate that.
Yes. Yes. The existing, going through you, man, the existing specific area plans that we've put in have transitions in height, so might be higher on the next door block, but within a certain distance, it has to step down near the boundary to try and make it a good neighbour to the lower.
I understand. Light and shade, yep. Thank you.
Anyone else like to have a question? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Good commentary around the table. I think it's a pretty super exciting project. It's been a long time coming, is what I would say, and it's good that we're finally getting there. I think it'll be good for public transport, land, housing, all the above. And obviously, this is just phase 1 from Glenorchy to Newtown. And obviously phase 2 will go from Newtown to what's hopefully the Macquarie Point Stadium. So it's a really important project for the next decade, I would say, for Tasmania. So very supportive of the motion.
Thank you. Any further? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, thank you. Just like to also speak in support of this motion, and what a great thing to have in your last meeting to roll out some progressive planning provisions, very on brand for you, Tony. So yeah, really happy to see this go in. Of course, as the Deputy Mayor said, it's just our part of the co-funding arrangement that Hobart City Council signed off on, and we're doing our part now. I think the biggest risk in us approving it is that the transit corridor doesn't get funding, and we don't want to look at that worst case scenario. But if these are changes that need to happen for densification, clever densification anyway, close to the transit corridor and not pushing out into our greenfields. So really happy to see it happening. Yeah, I'd like to commend it.
Thank you. Any further contribution? No. I'd just like to say, Tony, was the Hobart City deal signed in 2018 or 19?
Signed, from memory, it was signed in February 2019.
Right, so it's been a very long time, and was the $52 million committed at that time?
There or thereabouts.
So who's got all the interest on that money?
Sorry, Mayor, probably about 37 or 30, I get the numbers kind of get a bit confusing, but 37 or 37.5 million was committed at that time, and there was subsequent additional commitments that brought it up to around 52, I think.
Yes, well, $52 million since 2019, and as you and I both know, numerous reports about pot plants and murals. It is great to see something concrete actually being done. So it has massive support for me for all of the reasons previously discussed, which is increasing density to allow people to live close to services so they can access doctors and hospitals and libraries and sports grounds, etc., with also building a case for public transport, more efficient transport. So to see it actually, I mean, I cannot come up with any excuse for why it's taken so long, but at least it's happening. So on the positive side, I am fully in support. So back to the deputy.
Yeah, nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Again, carried unanimously. Item 10, Glenorchy Cycling Infrastructure Plan 2025. Who would like to move this one? Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Yeah, a good fit. Thank you, Alderman Marks. Right, Councillor Kendall.
Just because I got the nod from Alderman Cockshut there, obviously, on brand for me. So yeah, this is about fantastic cycling infrastructure upgrades in our city. Importantly, it will provide choice to our residents of all ages, provide safety and increase wellbeing and community connection, which is very important things. So happy to open it up for debate.
Thank you. Who would like to contribute to debate? Thank you, Alderman Alderton.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I've got a number of questions. I'm fully supportive of the cycle plan and the cycleway, but I have some concerns. I don't want to see us become, parts of our municipality become another Hobart CBD, which is what the Hobart City Council has turned the city into a nightmare the way they've structured their cycleway and their cycle pathways. And I just have a number of questions around a number of concerns. We have 68 designated routes mapped out in this plan, and out of those 68 routes, we seem to have a very high density or concentration of cycleway roads infrastructure in the Myrna area in regards to this proposed cycleway along Lambton Avenue, along Derwent Park Road, along parts of Hopkins Street, along parts of Albert Road, along the length of Charles Street. Now, at the moment, we're all aware that during middle, late afternoon, Myrna, Main Road, CBD area becomes a real bottleneck in regards to traffic. Now, while I'm supportive of cycleway infrastructure, I just feel if we endorse this plan, does this give council operationally a blanket decision to go ahead and proceed with the entire 68 routes that are suggested here, or will each route, as it's decided on, come back to council to actually vote on? Because my concern is, are we going to turn Myrna into a real bottleneck if we've got cycleways on all those streets that are mentioned?
CEO.
Through you, Mayor, I might start and then I might hand it over to the deputy. Just noting that the comments in the recommendation are that the plan will inform Council's future capital works program, external funding applications and collaboration with the Tasmanian Government. So I think it's a plan that we can then use to seek funding. It's a plan that we can bring to Council at budget time and say we think these are the priority routes. I think my experience so far with any of these cycling proposals is that we bring them to a council workshop and listen very carefully to the feedback we get from elected members about potential issues. And I don't anticipate that process would change under the incoming CEO.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Slade.
Yeah, look, Mayor, I support this. I was actually involved as chair of Cycling South for 10 consecutive years, beginning of 2000. And we just seem to be going around in circles, and I think it's good the fact that our team, and there's a couple of members of that team here actually, and even the CEO was very active in that in its early days. So we've actually got a plan now, and I just see this as a plan which it can be discussed further, brought back to council as CEO was saying, and then we can see what fits in, what doesn't, what crosses the line and what doesn't. And what worries me a little bit is the fact is that subject to funding, when there's been a few comments on perhaps it's only what I've read, but cycling funding mightn't be as light or as rich as it used to be. So I think first it's good that we do the plan, Mayor, that's what we're doing here, and then from there, we can judge what needs to go in it and whatever, and then there's a costing done for that versus what the needs of the community are.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Yeah, I've got a number of questions as well. Just dovetailing on the back of that comment regarding the state government funding. So this last budget that was produced, there's only funding of 1.5 million for a Kinborough Council project. The year before that was $5 million, and there was been millions and millions of other funds that have been sent over the last decade. So I feel like the question, I guess, is that with a lack of state funding and investment and I guess an appetite, will this impact the plan?
Make one comment would be that the Greater Hobart Councils have worked really closely to prioritise a set of cycling interventions for the region. The second comment I'd make is I think the federal government is very keen on active transport infrastructure, as I think is the Department of State Growth. I'm not sure how the state's budget is going to affect that, but I think the Deputy CEO would like to just add a few comments.
Thank you, Deputy CEO.
Mayor, when the community engagement was undertaken back in January, February this year, there was more government funding available for active transport options, and they are supportive because they do see it as a way of trying to reduce congestion, particularly around urban areas. That funding actually has been heavily reduced or taken out of the budget. So yes, there will be an immediate effect on what we can rely on from government funding. Apart from, there are still some programs, the Vulnerable Road Users Program is still available, and Black Spot Funding Program can be made available for certain types of projects. On page 13 of the attachment, there is a priority plan that Council has put together based on the community feedback and the priorities from the community. And some of them are the upgrades to the intercity cycleway crossings. That was one of the most heavily responded to requests, and Council can opt to put some money in our budget progressively to upgrade those. However, we're also waiting on the rapid bus transit corridor plans to see how that will affect. But we are still progressing certain things like the cycleway link to the new Bridgewater Bridge. So we've actually completed 2 stages, and we have 1 stage to go, which will progress in the upcoming new financial year. And so things like that we will progress. In answer to a couple of the other questions, it does commit us to the overall plan. However, individual projects we would bring to Council as part of the Capital Works program if we included it as part of our own budget submission, and that way we could have more of a detailed discussion about the individual project on a project basis.
Yeah, I've got a few more, Mayor, if I could.
Yeah, go for it.
I guess I have a rate of concern. Obviously, the plan is quite detailed. It is quite extensive, which is great. But I guess there is no budget or even an idea of costings. Like there's no, and I feel like if we're committing a plan of this sort, that there is no, we've got a state government that's not having appetite currently. We've got a budget, we've got no idea of costings. So that, I guess my concern is there a concept or an idea of how much the whole plan will cost over the 5 years? Because I guess it is a significant, in my opinion, I think it's a significant investment, and we've got to make sure we have the funds to be able to make it happen or know where it's going to come. I guess get concerned that we're going to endorse something and we have no financial implications or no.
Who'd like to answer that, Deputy?
It's correct, we don't have the whole plan fully costed. It's really just approving the routes that have been proposed. And if that's in agreement, and this is based on the consultation that was undertaken earlier this year, if there's agreement to progress those as the set routes, then we can do the detailed costings on a staged basis, because there's no way we could afford to do all of them. So, ones like the Peltro to Terry Street link might be one that we take on 1 year, and then look at others in that priority list that might give us the most beneficial for our traffic and safety options. The priority links are also around links that would get kids to schools safely. So that's where the priorities are the highest, to try and link to particular facilities. Schools is probably one of the main facilities that we're trying to link up so kids can ride to school safely.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to further respond to that question, I think what the Deputy Mayor is pointing to is a potential of raising expectations only to dash them. The report is very clear. I'll just read out the financial section. The Glenorchy Cycling Infrastructure Plan outlines a strategic, long-term approach to delivering a safe, connected and accessible cycling network across the municipality. While the plan itself does not commit council to specific expenditures, it provides a framework for prioritising and delivering projects over time, enabling alignment with council's annual budget and capital works planning processes. So I guess it's fairly clear in the report. We're not making any. We're trying not to create any false expectations. I can understand it's a valid concern, but the report itself is quite clear for the future record that this is a plan that we'll need to seek future funding over time.
Just another one, if I may. Just regarding the usage, I don't see any data in there about the usage or expected usage. It talks about there being currently a low usage and growing numbers, but there's no data, or I couldn't find any data or counts, or there's no evidence, I guess, in it that there is a growing need in terms of cycling. So we're putting together a plan, and potentially, costs are ongoing in the long term, but we're not sure on the usage at the moment, and we don't have any data around it. So I'm concerned that the usage of it and the investment of it, while I appreciate it's a really good plan, I'm concerned about the usage and whether we're getting a significant return on what the investment will be. So I guess, do we have any of that data? That's not included in the report.
There was some data provided when we did the workshops, but it's still a little bit of guesstimation going on, because until the links are created, you really can't predict exactly how much usage they'll get. But the links are where we know people are coming on and off the cycleway. We don't know totally where they're going. We do know those links are actually used consistently. I can take that on notice, and we could try and get more information on that.
Yeah.
Specifically, if projects are identified as being progressed, I think that could be part of the information we provide to council.
And there's for mine, Appendix 3, it talks about there's been 5 fatal crashes and 20 serious, and I'm not sure of those stats, were they included in bicycles? It talks about pedestrians and bicycles in that appendix. So I guess obviously the plan is not about pedestrians. Well, we want to keep pedestrians safe. That's not. I guess I'm trying to put the point down. Is that in the report as well, where it's in Appendix A, the table after Appendix C, there's 12. From what I counted, there was 12 bicycle incidents in 10 years that have been reported, and 5 of which were serious. So I guess I'm just, not that they're significant in an individual incident, but overall it's not a large amount of evidence that says that we have a major issue in terms of our hotspot of incidences and injuries. So I guess if I could speak to it, that's probably the best way to finish. As you can understand, I do have hesitations on it. I do have hesitations that we haven't got good data, we haven't got good evidence of the need for it. We've got an idea of where the map of it all, and I think it is good it's quite a high level plan, and it doesn't give any of the granular kind of detail of it, doesn't give any costings in it. And I think I would feel more comfortable if there was some better evidence, there was better data. We've got a state government pulling away from it. It's going to have to be funded by ourselves or externally. So I feel like this is a premature plan, and it hasn't got enough detail around it to I can see the need for it, but I don't think we've got enough evidence right now to form a really solid plan moving forward. That's my feeling about it. And we've got no idea of costings as well around that thing. So I guess I've got hesitations around it, so I'm not sure I can be supportive of the plan until there was some more evidence, in projections of use, whether, the community survey of, I think it was 174, there was 66 that were supportive, so 34 weren't supportive. There's no real detailed plans of this is the staging, there's no budget, there's no plan with the state support, and I guess there's a lot of red flags, enough red flags for me to be concerned about supporting it. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Very interesting. Alderman Alderson, you have spoken, but you've got your hand up again, so can I ask a question?
Yeah, so the question I have is, and I share the same views as the Deputy Mayor, and if I can ask Tony or Amelia, so 68 routes over a 5-year period, if we had the funding, could you actually deliver and complete Letman Cycleway routes? I think that's a bit ambitious, and you're giving, once again, the community a false expectation. If we had the money, we could deliver every single one of these routes if they were feasible. So would that actually be achievable in 5 years?
In 5 years.
Because the plan's over 5 years.
If the money was available, I'd say it's mostly achievable. Obviously, there's some unknowns, just on what infrastructure or underground infrastructure may have to be dealt with, because, obviously you find things as you progress a project that, latent conditions that you're not aware of. So it possibly is achievable.
Right, because I share the Deputy Mayor's same sentiments. I'd rather see us go back to a workshop, go back to the table, and come back and vote on a supported plan that we can support, that we can pay for, and whether it be half of these, a quarter of these, or whatever.
Alderman Sloan.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out, I'm going to turn this into a question, Mayor, so I'm just going to pull myself back out again. Look, my question would be is that, Mayor, hasn't the council shown that, or if I interpreted it incorrectly, I've made my decision and spoke in relation to reading the attachments, which I have interpreted as being certainly not a free check or whatever it is. It's upon the basis of what we as council see the need and what's available, and then we're going to go out and get some money. So in other words, my question there is that there's no promise there that something's going to happen. So there's no promise there, there's nothing going to happen. My other question is, couldn't we just bring this to a nice ending, Mayor, and not kill it off? I use that word, but simply in a nice press release, media statement, just highlight those questions that I just asked for to be done, and then I don't think we'll be a concern with the community, will it?
I don't know the answer to your question.
No, that's my question.
Yes. Do you want to try and answer that?
Yeah, because it took a long time to prepare it, so I can't repeat it. So, you hear what I'm saying?
So,
but what I'm saying is what the report presented And I believe it's covered everything inside that. And the deputy mayor's issues and whatever are valid, but I believe it is very high end, and I've got no problem with that because it is so high end. And I believe that if we just emphasise those points in a media release going out, then that would make me feel perhaps a bit more comfortable. I think it'll make the community more comfortable knowing where the ground rules are.
Can I ask, is the recommendation a bit confusing? The point 2 is just noting that the plan will inform, and that's all. Council's future capital program. If it was just point 1, endorse the plan, and then when we develop it further and provide an actual specific project with more detail and data, I accept that we can probably better inform council with the data and what benefits it would provide, and then that will be approved on a case-by-case basis. The timeline probably will blow out because of the funding not being available, so there's something we'll have to look at readdressing. And I guess there's also, we're trying to future-proof the plan, so if the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor does go ahead and we get more intensification, it's to help reduce congestion. People can use active transport to get to, from their apartment block to the CBD shopping strips without having to jump in the car, and reduces the need for a lot of parking spaces as well. So there's a lot of things sort of combined into the thinking of the cycling infrastructure plan, but if we're actually okay with the routes and the plan in general, we can bring the more detailed capital jobs with detailed costings and data back to council if the timelines developed.
Alderman King?
That's all I read this motion to be, endorse the Glenorchy City the cycle infrastructure plan set out, for 5 years. Note that the plan will inform council's future capital works, not set it in concrete, just inform. And the external funding applications and collaboration test to me, that says if we get funding, it doesn't say, it's nothing in concrete there. I mean, it'd be nice in concrete, nice if it was able to be. I think the Deputy Mayor's articulated all the internal bits and pieces very well, but I see the motion as not warm and fuzzy, but nothing in concrete, and comfortable enough to support it as it stands, but it's a lot more work to go into it, I imagine. That's the way I'm viewing it.
Another question?
Yeah, isn't endorsing it actually setting it in concrete though? That's
No.
That's wrong in my interpretation.
No. Approved would be.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Okay, so I want to take you on a journey, right? And thank you for the diversity of opinion. I think that's very reflective of the community's attitude to this important subject. I can't cycle, and I have cycle envy. I think I fell off a bike and was terrified some stage back. I've had about 4 or 5 goes at trying to cycle, but there's a mental block. But I am envious of anyone fit enough and healthy enough to cycle and encourage their kids to cycle.
You need trainer wheels.
I actually bought a tricycle electric bike, but that didn't help. So let's take a picture. If the elected officials of the 19th century had been visionary enough to build wider roads with much more capacity for all of the extra growth of population, from getting away from horse and cart, and all these cars, and some families have got 4 or 5 cars, we wouldn't be having this argument. But we have 19th century roads, we have people with multiple vehicles, plus they've got electric scooters, they've got electric bikes, they've got all sorts of toys for mobility. We as elected officials have to stop looking at just this little patch of now. We are charged with building the city for the future. So what does the next 5 years, what does the next 10 years, what does the next 20 years go? If we keep multiplying and growing the way we are and the infrastructure remains exactly as it is, we're never going to get out of Amiens Road. We're going to be stuck in gridlock for the rest of our lives because people have this entitlement to drive and sit in a car, and usually there's one person in that car going in that direction, the family going somewhere else. So I wholeheartedly support this report. Do I think it's going to happen in 5 years? I've been in local government for over a decade. No way. Right? These things don't happen overnight. We now have the actual government who want to be re-elected going back in time and pulling cycling infrastructure, which I think is such a negative backward move. I should be slapped for it. This is a plan about the future. This is a plan of enabling people. Currently, there's 10% of Glenorchy who cannot access any motor car. They just can't afford to. So rather than inhibit them from accessing employment, providing easier, cheaper access to a job or employment or medical care or anything else is what should be at our hearts. Globally, the whole world is now saying, hey, you elected people at any level you're at, you have a moral responsibility to build infrastructure that creates active transport. The solution to some of the big world problems, chronic kidney disorder, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, stroke, dementia. One of the big prevailing cures or preventative measures is active transport, getting people to walk to work, to get to, on a bike and cycle somewhere for healthy, fresh air, and to prevent these nasty things that are happening. You know, once upon a time, there was an argument, okay, we're not Copenhagen, we're not like the European cities which are all flat. But the more affordable electric bikes and the more that they become popular, the hills of Tasmania are no longer a barrier. But we have to start thinking as a generational challenge, how are we going to get this solution solved? Not only for health, but for equity in getting around. And other cities, you know, they wouldn't dream of owning a car. They all have cycles. So it's not the big nasty that some people paint. And I don't see why we have to have this huge big fight about, you know, cyclists in Lycra. They're racing 1,000 miles an hour and they're causing all these accidents and all the rest of it. This is about building a city of the future with opportunity for everyone. This is a document that provides us a starting point for seeking funding. And whilst the state government is pulling funding, the federal government does have grants and wants to hear about us building connectivity, easing congestion and creating cycleways. So the only way we can retrofit these roads we're stuck with or allow more people to get along them is by creating great footpaths, great cycle paths that are not connected to the actual cars. You know, there's a bit of a barrier. In an ideal world, you would have the Copenhagen model, but even green path is better than nothing. So whilst I wholeheartedly agree there's a lot of stuff in this report that probably could be added to it, I only see it as a blimp on a timeline, and I want to commend everybody who's put in so much work into this document, because as I say, if we don't endorse this tonight, we're just doing what our forefathers did and not looking big picture. You know, imagine if they'd said that the Booker Highway is going to be 4 lanes or 6 lanes or whatever, and had that foresight all that time back, it'd be so much cheaper than where we are at the moment. So that's only my point of view. I thank everyone for the debate because I think it has been quite diverse. Now, does anyone want to have any other contribution before I go back to Councillor Kendall? Councillor Kendall.
Thank you. I think I've got a question before wrapping up. I think one has been answered about the announcement yesterday from the Liberal government pulling 1.5 million out of cycling infrastructure. That will affect this plan, yeah? Is my first question, just confirming, yeah?
Yes, if we're relying on grant funding or the funding from the active transport grant program, yes, it will affect the plan.
All right. So, but we don't know who the government's going to be yet. I think that's one question answered, and the potential for funding coming from federal levels has also been raised as an option or a possibility for funding some of these. My other question was around how do we how do I say this? People are very triggered by bicycles. It's such a hot button topic, and it's really a hard one to reassure people about. The CEO mentioned that there'd be workshops as a part of, in a positive future case where we do get funding for some of these big chunks of the plan. Will there be some strategic planning around how we talk to community, around reassuring them and making sure people know that they'll be safe and that their car or their congestion or their car parks will be safe as well?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, I mean, our approach is always to consult with stakeholders around any of the projects that we do in the capital workspace. I guess I've been thinking as the debate's been going on, what are the alternatives to this recommendation? You know, it might be that there are gaps in research that could have been filled. Many of them probably can't be filled until we actually build some more of these things and measure them. But I guess the alternative question to ask is what's the case if council doesn't endorse this plan? I mean, at the very least, this is a plan that has had expert engineering input, and it's also been out to the community for comment. Acknowledging that it's not costed, that we may not have all the usage numbers, etc. What is the alternative? If council doesn't endorse this plan, then we're in a situation where council has no plan for cycling infrastructure. And so officers are then faced with just putting forward random projects or responding in a piecemeal way to proposals for cycling infrastructure improvements within the city. The advantage of the plan is that whilst probably like every other plan, it doesn't have perfect information. It has there's been a level of consideration given to it, and expert input and community consultation, and it's arguably better than nothing as a guide for future cycling in the city. The other comment I would make is that when compared to roads, cycling infrastructure projects are relatively inexpensive. And that's one of the other reasons why governments like active transport, because it's a cheaper way of moving people around cities. So that is a very probably rambling and indirect answer to your question.
No, I think that's good. I mean, to sum it up, I think you said we only get to build it if we get money, and if we don't have a plan, then we won't get money. Yeah.
That's true. Alderman Riddler, we have gone to summation.
No, she was just asking the question, so.
Oh, she then just said to sum it up.
Oh, sorry, I was just clarifying.
All right, but let's take the question, Steve.
Well, whilst I support it, just one thing is that I don't want to see a situation like in Singapore where it's very difficult to buy a car and run a car because they've got a great public transport system. Everyone catches public transport. But one thing I think we should consider is, which is probably a little bit outside the square in relation to this plan, is what happens if we end up with TikToks. Like in the little three-wheel cart tuk-tuks. Sorry, tuk-tuks.
It was close.
The bike lanes aren't really wide enough, but they're going to come.
As long as they're environmentally friendly, that sounds okay.
Oh, you get gas-fired ones now, but what I'm getting at is that the as you said, scooters, electric scooters, all that, and these will come, no doubt. They'll be important, they'll be available.
Yes,
Going back to the old Vespers.
Bright, big, exciting future as far as I'm concerned.
So, Mayor, I asked a question for us, just like to say, all I'll say to
The ticks?
is if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. It's that simple.
Yes, that's your favourite saying, that's true.
One.
Oh, one of them, okay. Forgive me.
Those are the little ones that I
Yeah,
can.
okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Is to reframe this question,
Think deeply.
do we know what the population of Copenhagen is?
Must be.
5, 6 million.
Yeah, so 5, 6 million. Do you know what the population of Glenorchy is?
50,000.
Correct, thank you.
Can I ask a question? What do you think the population of Glenorchy will be in 20 years' time?
Probably about 60,000.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Alderson and then Alderman Cockshut.
Okay, I have another question now. General Manager, this plan is far advanced and far more audacious than what we discussed in the workshop we had around this.
Or brave.
Yeah, so basically this is why I have another concern, because we haven't really workshopped this plan. That'd be fair to say.
No, we did.
Well, no, what we workshopped, we talked about a cycleway continuing from Terry Street up around the back of Glenorchy into Tolosa Street and ending up that way. It was never discussed, I can assure you, maybe I missed a workshop or something, it was never discussed in this great detail, and this great number of routes was not discussed.
What is the CEO, acting CEO? Deputy.
Yeah, the info in this, report was presented, but there was, a bit of a focus on Piltro Street as an example of, how we can do a single lane, like a dedicated lane for a cycle. Yeah, so that was, but the information,
it was there to read, but it was, what I'm getting at, it was there to read, but it wasn't discussed in any great detail or depth at the workshop, you'd have to agree. The 68 routes.
You don't have to agree.
I seem to recall there was a presentation that included that information, but it was divided up on individual slides, so
yes,
it might have been the way we stepped forward.
Okay.
The population of Copenhagen is 1.4 million.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah.
Denmark's 6 million, is it?
In the city, it's 667,000. That's right in Copenhagen. Obviously, we're not going to hit those sort of levels, but this plan is designed to help with the traffic that's going to come on and off the cycleway and the rapid bus route, the rail corridor, so as to actually help disperse people out of the stations into the streets so that they don't actually have to have cars. So that was part of the presentation as well, and some of the stations when they're built will need some temporary rerouting around the cycleway, and this actually caters for that as well. So there's a few things that were thought of when in putting together this plan, so that we know that those areas are where we'll have concentrations of people coming off the transport corridor.
Alderman Cockshott, you know?
I'm all good. It's okay.
Okay, I have a question to.
Just a point of order, we're going to change that first word. We haven't resolved that. Alderman Shane suggested that we accept, and I'm just wondering, thinking about it, I think we should accept it or approve.
Well, before we get to that, we'd need a motion to change that.
Yeah, but I just wondered whether you had decided.
No, at the moment I'd just like to ask a question, so, because I have to ask a question. Would it be fair to say that the big countries that do have huge cycling infrastructure, like Copenhagen and European cities, etc., also have very efficient public transport? So that when you've got massive populations, you can move a lot of people around. And he also, can I ask a second question? We have just approved Park and Ride for the purpose of attracting people to get out of their cars or ride their bikes to catch public transport. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, Alderman Riddler, if you want to change the wording.
Well, do you want to change it? I tend to agree with you. I think it'd be better to prove it than approve it. Alderman Slade made a comment. I think we should change the word to approve, and I'm happy to move it.
Can we just have some advice from the CEO?
In terms of process, so at the moment we've got endorse has been moved and seconded by Alderman Kendall moved by Alderman Kendall, seconded by Alderman Marks. It would be possible to modify that wording with the consent of the mover and seconder. Alternatively, we'd have to go to a more formal process.
Can I ask the legal?
Why are we trying to wordsmith it?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to know. What's the difference between endorse and approve legally?
Well, except it was actually.
Is there any? Do you have a passion for changing the word?
Yeah, I think we ought to use the word approve.
The second change.
Councillor
Can
Creevy
I,
put that
can I
in.
ask
Yes.
what's trying to be achieved by that though?
Well, it's more formal, as is already pointed out by Deputy CEO.
I disagree.
More formal.
Well, unless somebody's happy to move it, I'm just going to let it stay as endorsed.
Well, if they don't want to do it through the consent of those, the move of the second, I'll move an amendment that the motion one, a resolution for motion one be, change the word endorsed to approved.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Thank you, Alderman Alderton. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of changing the word endorsed to approved, please raise your hand. Okay, those against? So it's carried 8 to 2.
I lost.
Lost 8 to 2, yes, lost 8 to 2. Okay, so back to the original motion. Do you have any finalising words there, Councillor Kendall?
I love this plan. Predictably, I love it. I just love being painted a vision for what the future could look like in our area. I really recommend the community has a look and gets behind it and starts getting excited about what could be possible in the future. As we've said, we've got to build it and they'll come in terms of, can't have like local stats right now. I think there could be some more information brought, potentially from smaller cities that have done similar kind of infrastructure plans that, you know, that might help the bigger project in the long run. So, yeah, I was also thinking along the stats line as well that the last crash that I had on a bike, I didn't report to police, and that was me driving along Liverpool Street, and a taxi driver opening their door. And yeah, it was great actually, because I had this cycling app where it shows you elevation, and there was a part where you could just see my elevation go bing, in this big spike. So I'm just wondering what stats aren't captured in terms of cyclist injury and also pedestrian injury. And from my reading of the plan, it was going to help pedestrian access as well in terms of safety. I love the collaborative approach that, you know, it's gone out to community and really highlighted schools and connectivity and main road connectivity. So yeah, very much hoping that we get funding for this and really happy that we have a plan to progress us there.
Right, and thanks everyone for a really good, healthy and respectful debate. I'm now going to put that motion to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. So it's everybody except Alderman Alderton and the Deputy, is that correct? Yes. So those against? We have Alderman Alderton and the Deputy. So again, what's that one? Vote. That's carried 8 to 2. Thank you. Right, the next item is item 11, financial performance report to the 31st of May. Who would like to move this one?
Are we accepting it or no?
Let's approve it. Receive a note, I believe, is the recommendation. Thank you, Alderman Marks. Seconder, please. Thank you, Deputy. Alderman Marks, do you like to open debate?
Just the financial report of the council at the moment, if the public doesn't know that we're in a really good position going into our next financial year, that we're going to be debt free, and it's something that I think from what I've been checking on, we're going to be the only council in Tasmania that will be debt free in our next financial report, so I'm very happy to approve this.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy.
I just have a question there for you. It talks about the final funding from the pool that was going to be received in June. Today's June 30. So I was just wondering if it had been received. Thank you. That's good to hear. That's a yes.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
very good.
you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anyone else like to make any comments? No? Well, in that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise your hand. It's carried unanimously, noting that Alderman King is not present. And now, notices on motion, questions on notice or without notice? There being none, I'm going to have to close the meeting, the open part of the meeting. And we take a vote on that. So who wants to move to close the meeting? Thank you. Thank you. So that's Alderman Slade and Alderman Riddler. Anyone wish to discuss that? Good afternoon. See you. Raise your hands, all those in favour. Hasn't made, thank you. It's carried unanimously. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's debate and council meeting. We look forward to seeing you again soon.